He got shot. It was like at the wrong place at the wrong time. A lot of people don't like my family because they were like always gang related or like something going on. She's just a quiet kid. Like there's nothing wrong with her, but like deep down there was like a lot of things wrong with me. I just didn't know how to express it to them. What am I doing here? Like what am I doing on this earth? Like why would someone put me on this earth? And I didn't know who I was questioning at the time, but now that I know, I was questioning God.
Alrighty, this is my wife Floetry, and today she's going to be sharing her testimony and talking about how she came to faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And I am super excited for you guys to hear her story. So yeah, why don't you get started, baby?
Okay. So I come from a very big family, a very big city. I come from Chicago, Illinois, and I have a huge family, a lot of siblings, a lot of aunties, a lot of cousins, a lot of uncles, and everything. But when growing up in Chicago, I experienced homelessness and like shelters and everything like that. It was very, I can't say I remember being in a shelter, but as I grew up, my sister would tell me like, "Oh, like did you know we're actually living in a shelter before we moved into this place or that place and everything?" And I was like, when she told me that, it was a lot to handle. But what I can remember growing up is growing up with my mom, her two sisters, and my five siblings at the time. And my mom's sister, one of her sisters had four kids at the time. She had more now, but at the time she had four kids. And we grew up in apartments like with 3 or 4 bedrooms and very, very small, I can say, but it was like it's what we created home. There was a lot of good memories there, a lot of laughter and everything. But I was always a very shy kid, like standoff kid, like try not to get in trouble because like I just I felt like I didn't have much to say in such a small household, but it felt so big with so many different people around me and everything. Living in in those situations, I can say that I didn't like it. Not necessarily that being around my family, it was just like being sharing a 1 bedroom. Sharing I wouldn't say I didn't like it because of my family. I really love my family and being with them and creating moments and creating them bonds. I would say it would be more so like sharing a 1 bedroom with a lot of kids, not just my siblings. It was other siblings, other family members like my cousins and everything. I felt like invasion of privacy. And I feel like a lot of adults would say today, or like even back then, like kids don't have much privacy or like kids need to stay in a child's place. But I feel that's very, very wrong to say and to think because like kids has as much privacy as an adult do. Like maybe it's not business or bills or more important things, but I feel like we definitely do have more privacy and like it was just boundaries that was been crossed and everything, I can say. And growing up, like my family normalized like having parties with kids around or having family functions or like family get-togethers with alcohol, with smoking and everything. And I knew it wasn't okay, but I was like fine with it because I kind of had to be fine with it because like who would listen to a kid? And like I was saying before, they'll say stay in a child's place, but like how could we stay in a child's place and it's literally in our face? I just knew it wasn't right, and I just felt like I just didn't belong in that family or like didn't belong in this kind of world because like I just knew what was right and what was wrong from a very young age, I can say. And having our first apartment like away from that big family and my mom, other sisters, and everything was when my mom met a guy I call my stepdad, but not legally. He's my stepdad. He came into our life when my mom was pregnant with one of my other sisters. She's 13 till this day, and he is still in their lives, taking care of them, and I really love that for him and for them. And so he's been in our life for a very long time. And I call him my stepdad, and I relate to him as more of a dad than my biological dad because growing up, my dad was in and out of my life because he was just looking for other things like chasing maybe money or lust or something that's out in the world that's the demon is or the devil is was gravitating him to. He was in prison a lot of the times. He was in jail a lot of the times. He was around different females a lot of the times. And I felt, I can say, like, at the time, I felt like it was okay because I was getting something out of it when I was seeing him every time, every once in a while. Maybe I was getting an outfit or some shoes or like getting taken to the movies or just, I think just being around my dad just like made it okay because like who doesn't love their parents even when they do not good things, I can say. But also I felt that abandonment and like the other part of loneliness, like not just not feeling seen in a big family, but also like not having my dad there constantly every single day, taking me to school and making me breakfast. I felt like I was alone a lot and like that made me chase other things in life, I can say. Then he comes back into my life later on, but sometimes or most of the times it wasn't on good terms or like he just kind of had to be there. Then it didn't end very well, which is I came to like be fine with it, but like it did like I feel like it took a turn in my life where it made things not good in my life. So I can say, but back to getting our first apartment with my mom and me and my stepdad and everything. When she met him, I thought everything was going to be good, everything was going to be better, but it was actually not. Like, he's a very good guy. He come from a very healthy mom. He come from a very healthy family, and I mean, like, mentally, not like with money or anything. And we moved out of with the big family and with my mom's sisters and her kids and everything. They all parted different ways, I can say. And once we got that more privacy, every time we got that privacy away from different families, I felt like it got worse, I can say. Um, there'll be a lot of fighting. Well, the alcohol involved will lead to a lot of fighting and a lot of arguments and physical altercations that lead into someone in a hospital, and then they'll be thinking it's okay. So they taught us that that was okay and that's the way to life and like this is real love, which it really wasn't. And like I knew deep down it wasn't okay, but I had to be fine with it. I feel like when that stuff was happening, there wasn't a lot of feelings for me. I was just more because I was more concerned of other people. So I was more concerned of my little siblings and them saying that, and even like I had older siblings, and they should be concerned about us, but I was concerned about them too, because everyone have feelings. So I always feel like I was more feely touchy towards how other people think, and I just didn't like how they would do things and all that stuff. Um, so it did get progressively worse, and I would go to church sometimes when I was with my godmother. I feel like that was when I was younger. That was one of my escapes. Was like being with somewhere that's not abusive, that people who didn't drink. Because my godmother was very Christian and she was very church and God life. I feel like, and she was very strict, and I really liked that about her. Like at the time when I was like, oh, she's just doing a lot, but it really grew on me and it really taught me like a different kind of thing. Like this is not the way. I feel like when I was like thinking like I know this isn't okay because I seen when I was staying with her, sometimes when I go visit with her, I didn't see this and I was like always looking for like when is someone's gonna be arguing or something, like is this a joke or is this just a prank, like someone's gonna be arguing soon or someone's gonna be drinking soon. And like to think like that as a kid was like mentally not okay. Like I was just like I think I was the word is scared or just nervous or just preparing myself for something always bad to happen when I was with her and we went to church.
How did being around your godmother and going to church impact your thoughts about God and like how you felt towards Christianity?
I feel like I was very young to have that opinion at the time because when I would go to church with her, like every time, like those few times I'll be with her on a Sunday or that weekend led to a Sunday, I'll be like, I will pay attention to what the pastor have to say, but I feel like it didn't really develop in my mind since I was like maybe 8 or 9 or 10 at the time when this stuff was happening. And when I would go to church, and it wasn't even just going to church that was very like getting to me, like even like after church or like when I'm with her through the weekday, she'll still sit us down and have a Bible study, and I'll still be right there if I couldn't read the words that was in the Bible. I remember us like sitting in her room in a circle doing a Bible study, and I wanted to like play with my toys that she got me or something, but I like knew that it was something important that I need to like hold on to. Like I just didn't know what it was at the time, and I feel like her giving me that, she was the first one to really introduce me to, as I'm thinking about it, like she was the first one to show the word to me, like the very first person ever in my life. It wasn't my mom, it wasn't my dad, it wasn't my aunt, it was her, because I was with her, I was under her care. So whatever she was doing, I would do, and it was like I was okay with it because wasn't her drinking or it wasn't her fighting. I feel like, yeah, so I feel like that. Um as we some time would pass and everything, my mom and my stepdad are still together. My cousin passed away. I feel like this took a big turn in their life and everything started went downhill. So my cousin passed away. It was very tragic for my family. I feel like for
How
that,
did he pass away? What happened to him?
he got shot. It was like at the wrong place at the wrong time. He was on his way home from my mom's house actually, because my mom do like a big Sunday dinner every Sunday. So he came over to get some food. His mom and his stepdad was out of town and they was on a honeymoon. I think they just got married, if I'm not mistaken, and they went to Miami. Yeah, they went to Miami, and my cousin was supposed to be at one of my other my cousin was supposed to be at my other aunt's house, but he wanted to come get some food from my mom's house and be around more people and everything. And they was okay with it because he was going to a different family house and he was going right back to where he was supposed to go. And he was walking home and towards my aunt's house, and there was like a very dangerous block that a lot of people be at, and a lot of people is like don't like. I could say a lot of people, the stuff that happened to him, a lot of people don't like my family because they were like always gang related or like something going on because of that. And I wouldn't say it because it was retaliation. I would just really truly think it was a mistake. And he was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And he got caught in a crossfire, I can say. And maybe something would have been different, but who knows but God. And he was taken at a very young age. He was only 16 at the time. He was a very bright kid. He was very smart. He was very like athletic and everything. He was just very lovable. And me being that young, I remember things about him, but like I remember like when they had his funeral that everyone was crying, like even like my cousins or my like I have an aunt that's around my age because the blended family, but even my younger cousins, like they were crying, they were sad, but I just didn't. I was like upset and sad, but I just didn't cry, and I thought something was wrong with me, but I feel like I've seen a lot of stuff at such a young age already that I want to say that it didn't really phase me that someone in my family was passing away because I knew it wasn't going to be the last time. And like thinking like that at a young age was definitely not okay. Like it was definitely not okay. But like that's how I felt. I felt like I didn't really have like a lot of emotions towards that death, I can say. And after his passing, my aunt, his mother, engaged in trusting the Lord. She went into faith and she gave God's put for her life in God's hands, and she encouraged my mom and the other family members to go to church and everything. And we started going a lot, like for a couple of months, even probably longer than that, every Sunday. It was a good opportunity to see more family, like on not just something to serve the devil, but it's something to serve the Lord, and it was good. And I felt. I feel like I felt very good about that at the time. Like since I was getting older, I can understand stuff more and I can understand that being in such a place like this is for the good and it wasn't just for ourselves. Like it wasn't just for my aunt, it wasn't just for my mom, it wasn't just for people around us, it was for someone else. And now that I know today, it was for our Lord. So yeah. And after a while of going to church, my mom and my stepdad had the intentions to move um away to Wisconsin for a better start because of my cousin passing, and they wanted to give us a better life, they mentioned. But moving away, when we moved away, I just felt like it got worse, and I feel like our living situation was better, and like having more access to food and things like that and being more free was better. But for the reasons, I don't think it was the correct reasons, and like everything wasn't right and everything wasn't for the better. I can mention when we first moved and stuff, I was so ecstatic because growing up poor and having growing up poor and moving up in life a bit, we had like a first like house, like a townhouse with like an upstairs and downstairs. And I just remember saying like, "Oh, this is my first time having a upstairs and downstairs." Like that's so cool and everything. And I was like, "Oh," like I felt like something was like actually changing at that point, like those little things, because like I never had anything like that. So I was like so glad and like so ready to start a new life and everything. And after a couple of months in, like it didn't go as planned. I can say that like I I got picked on a bit like in school because I was like my mom, she didn't really teach her kids how to like take care of herself as a woman, and I was like had like facial hair and stuff, so I'll get picked on that, or like maybe the hairstyles or like the clothes I wear. And like some people like cry and like be like very mad about that. I was just like I really did not care because like deep down inside I know where I came from, and that day I was maybe getting picked on, I came very far. And like I just did not care. I just was like, okay. Or I didn't say anything because what could I say? So that like I just didn't feel any feelings or anything. And also dealing with that, I feel like I didn't really, that was just such a minor problem to like when I have to get home to my parents still drinking and still fighting. It just like made me more closed off and made me more want to be by myself and not sometimes not be with that type of family. And like it made me even sometimes resent my siblings because like when they didn't say anything, like my older siblings, even they were still young, I was thinking at the time like they didn't say anything to protect us, but it was probably much better not to say anything to protect to my parents who was intoxicated because maybe they would lash out on them or like speak badly or put their hands on them or anything. So I feel like it was a good thing that they did not say anything, that now that I'm grown up and everything. And I can say that when this was happening, I was always telling myself I would not drink, I would not smoke, I would never treat my kids like that or nothing. And things lead to different things, but a first like come to part like first time like being in like middle school, no late elementary school, and like going into middle school, and I like realized like life like is actually not what the TV shows you. It was like when I can remember us getting kicked out and being homeless again cause of my two older sisters. Just they were very chaotic people, very young, and since they came from Chicago, it was a lot of always fighting, and that's what they did out there, just arguing, and also them feeding off what my parents are showing them that it's okay and fine and everything. They would like start stuff with the neighbors and we'll get the complaints and everything and all that. And at the time, I feel like I didn't care because like I wasn't a part of it, and I feel like it would nothing would have happened because like I didn't do anything, so it wouldn't affect me. But it was actually wrong. It affected not only just me but my younger siblings too. And eventually we did get kicked out, and I just see my mom like crying, and like I just like I felt bad, but like I felt like my mom could have did more to that situation with keeping her kids under control, but she couldn't because she was like intoxicated or just worried about her husband or just something else, just not really having her focus on her, not really having her focus on her kids, I can say. And I remember when we were leaving, packing up to go find like a homeless shelter to go stay in, I was just thinking about what can I do better to help my mom in a situation to help us find a apartment or like a new place to stay. So I was giving her suggestions. I was like, you can ask my aunt if we can go stay with her. And I remember her telling me, you don't have to worry about that because she will worry about that. And she did worry about that. My sister was talking to this one guy at the time, but his family and my family met each other. So his grandma let us stay with her, and she was an older lady. Her she had two of her grandsons staying with her already, and it was once again a 3-bedroom apartment. So it was them three, my 6 siblings, my 5 siblings plus me. It was 6 people at the time, and my mom and my stepdad. So it was a lot of people, and I was like, I was okay. Like I was just okay that again, I wasn't thinking about me having a place to stay. I was thinking about my mom having a place to stay. I was thinking about my siblings having a place to stay and everything. I remember one of my older sister leaving just at the only age of 16. She didn't come and stay with us. So she went off to do her other things, I can say. And once we moved in with her, I thought since we're going to be around more people and it's going to be an open space and like less privacy, that my mom and my stepdad will get things under control and stuff. But well, I can say that I did felt embarrassed staying with someone else because it was just who wouldn't feel embarrassed, like having a lot of kids at one place and all that. I felt like throughout the time unwelcome in different scenarios and everything, but I couldn't really say anything because where else were we going to stay? Like, we can't stay in the car. It was very cold at the time, but like I was saying, I thought we would have, like, since we were less privacy and in someone else's home, that my mom and my stepdad would stop the fight and stop the drinking, but it just got very, very worse. Like, it started from night drinking to day drinking to middle day drinking to night drinking. It was just a cycle every single day, and going to school and not having like anyone to talk to or not having any friends and just coming home and not really having a home in someone else's home and having to deal with your parents just yelling and just doing a lot of stuff. It was not a great feeling. I feel like at this time I just felt like just asking myself at a young age, only in like maybe the 6th grade, like what am I doing here? Like what am I doing on this earth? Like why would someone put me on this earth, you know? And I didn't know who I was questioning at the time, but now that I know, I was questioning God. And I was just like so stuck and just like so like coming depressed at a young age. And I didn't know it was depression. No, it was like very, very sad thoughts and stuff. And as time went past, around COVID time, we all couldn't stay in the house anymore. It was such a small apartment. It was just getting worse and worse. And my mom sent me and my 3 younger siblings to my aunt's house in Chicago, the one whose son passed away. And it was just like, it wasn't like I was okay with that. Actually, I don't think I was okay with that at the time. I think on the bus right there, I was okay with that because it was around family, and no one was sad about the situation. My siblings knew them and everything, so I was just like worried about them. But just being in that household, it wasn't as toxic as my household, but it was just like her kids like growing up in a different situation. Like Chicago and Wisconsin is like very, very different. I could say Wisconsin is like very, people are very soft spoken and very like, are you okay? Like very like everything's gonna be okay. But in Chicago they're like, oh, just get over it, like you'll be fine, like just, move on. And like I did not like that, and like I felt like I did not have a voice there. Like, I didn't feel like I had a voice before. I just felt like every single time I go to somewhere else or go to a different state or a different school, like my voice got very quieter, and like it just like made me feel like I was like balled up in the corner or something. And after a while of staying there, like a month or two, my mom and my stepdad found the apartment for us, and it was good. I was like very happy to go back with my mom, like even though they put us through like so much so far at a very young age. I feel like just being with your parents is like a different feeling, and like just growing up with them and being around those people all your life. Like what would you want to do but not be with them? So I was like very happy and very ecstatic to go back with them. And I thought something was going to change this time, like new beginnings. We got a new apartment now and got your kids back with you. Like everything is going to be okay. But I remember like the first day of us getting back with my mom, we got in the car on our way to drive to back to Wisconsin because it was a different part of Wisconsin where we were going to stay. And my mom was driving, so obviously she wasn't intoxicated. But I remember my stepdad being intoxicated, and like not you can tell just from the his breath. You can tell his breathing and his talking, but also the way he would slur his words and stuff. And I was just like immediately like just so annoyed because I knew it was gonna be like a bad trip. And like before we put off, they just start arguing and everything. And I just knew it was not gonna be anything that's gonna change. Like nothing's gonna be different or anything. But at that moment, I felt like I just want to get to like a place where I can actually call home. And I was like just very happy to be with all my siblings and everything, like my two older siblings, because I wasn't there at the time. And we got there, we started unpacking, and we started a new life. But I just remember literally the same day, later than night, when we got some unpacking done, they were drinking throughout the time when we were unpacking and everything. And when we got to just chill out and just not do any more packing, we were just, me and my siblings were just like in my room and doing some unpacking in there, just like talking and stuff. We just like heard them arguing and yelling. And I just knew like I did not want to deal with that. I did not want to be around that. So it's actually really sad, but like me and my siblings laughed about this when this happened. But I like pretended I was asleep and like went under my cover, and my mom like came in the room and she like dragged us out to the car and stuff like that because my sister had ended up calling the police because they were arguing and she didn't want to deal with it either. And I was just like, I felt scared. I thought, like, for some reason, I just thought we were going to be getting taken away. That's why my mom put us in the car, or we were going to have to go back to stay with my aunt, and which we did not want to do again, which I know I didn't want to do again and everything. So I just, like, felt like this is, like, so annoying. Like, when it's going to be over, it's just, like, a cycle and a cycle of, like, the same stuff and everything. And after a while, nothing happened. We went back in the house and just I just remember me being over it and not wanting to pack or anything, unpack or anything, just having a rest and stuff. And throughout the time, like every single day, like standing there, like it just got worse and worse. So my mom stopped working, so it was just one income from my stepdad, and I gave her a little more freedom to drink, or just for her to just be bottled up in her room. And the only time she would come out is to like to maybe take a shower, to cook food and everything. And I can say that when my mom was not intoxicated, it was very rare. She was a very, very, very loving person. Like she was very nice. She was very sweet. That I feel like that's why we wanted to be around her because we thought she can change and that this will be her forever and everything. But when she had like alcohol in her system, she was just like literally just the devil. And to speak of your mom like this is like a very bad thing, but it's only the truth. Like she was just a whole completely different person. People thought she had like an evil twin or something, but it was just the alcohol and just the control and just the sickness of what liquor can do to a person. And same with my stepdad, like he was a very generous person. He's a very sweet person and everything when he's not when he's sober, but when he has alcohol, I can say he's a funny person. Like he's a funny drunk, but it still wasn't a good drunk either because them two combined was just like a disaster. And as time went past, I remember just always locking myself in my room, and my parents would call it, oh, like she's just a quiet kid, like there's nothing wrong with her. But like deep down there was like a lot of things wrong with me. I just didn't know how to express it to them, and I wouldn't express it to them because like once they got intoxicated, I just know that they'd forget what I was talking about. And I just felt like it was no matter, like it was no right time, or it just didn't make sense to say how I felt if they're just gonna forget about it. And I feel like at like only in the sixth or seventh grade I start being addicted to pornography and finding that lust in that and finding lust in different people. I can say I didn't know a lot of people in that town with like and just moving around a lot. You can form relationships, but I don't think I ever formed a real relationship with someone that's a friend before I moved to Menominee. I can say meeting my first friend in the seventh grade was a bit of a relief, and I didn't feel as lonely because we just clicked immediately. I didn't know why at the time, like when we first clicked, like the first time we were like together and like having a conversation, it was like so natural, other than with the conversations I'll have with teachers or other students I've been in school with for 2 years. At that point, it felt forced, I can say, and I didn't feel a connection because like I was so different and like my background was so different from other kids, and with her it was so good. Like the things that we had in common wasn't good, but at the time we both came from broken homes, and there was a lot of stuff going on at her house that was similar to what was going on at my house. And she was interested in smoking, and I was interested in smoking at the time, and we were both interested in just chasing out the boys and just chasing out that love that we did get from our father, I can say. When we became very close, I was so excited. I feel like I finally had someone that understood what I was going through. We never talked like before we came to each other's homes and before we spent the night at each other's homes or like introduced each other to our parents and stuff. We never talked about what to expect when we walked into each other's house, and we just went to each other's house and like it was just normal and like we knew each other for a very, very long time. And I think ever since we like met, like the first couple days we met inside school and started hanging out outside school, we just started hanging out like every single day and just started not doing good things together. But it was so natural to me to do. Like I was always like a good shy kid, but once I became friends with her, I felt like I belonged somewhere and I wasn't like being shut down. I wasn't lonely and I didn't have a quiet voice. I was like always open. I just felt always calm around her. Our friendship didn't last as long because as we grew up, our interests were like they were similar, but people just grow apart. And I can say like it was really meant for us not to be friends, but I was a person that stood my ground and like knew if someone did something like I knew it was not right and I was not gonna go for it. But after like a couple of months of not being friends, I thought I felt bad and like just felt terrible. I was telling myself that it was like a mistake that I called our friendship off. But now that where I'm at now, I know it was better for us and better for me and better for her as well. After the friendship got cut off and everything and we grew apart, I felt back into like a lonely place. I can say with other things going on at my house, I was also start just dealing with more and more stuff at a young age. Once I get back home after our friendship and after school, I'll just be lonely and be sad, having to go back home to my mom and my stepdad arguing and fighting every night. I remember it was one night that it was a school night, we were getting ready for bed and we were in our room and I just heard my mom and my stepdad screaming to the top of their lungs at each other, just arguing and bickering. And my sister went out to tell them to quiet down because we had school, obviously, and she was letting them know that they need to just be quiet. And it didn't stop. So my sister ended up bringing me and my three other siblings, into her room so we could feel that sense of safeness with her, I feel like. And it was just constantly like it was going on for like 5 or 10 minutes, maybe even less than that. Then I was a bit nosy, but also I remember I had to go get something out of my room. And I just, maybe it was my phone or something, or like a tablet, but I went back into my room to go get it. And I just seen my stepdad putting his hands on my mom and I didn't see anything after that, so I just stayed in my room for like a minute or two because I was like, maybe they see me and maybe they might yell at me. But I ended up going back because my sister was expecting me to come back into her room, and I was walking back, like going back to her room, and I was like, something was just like telling me to go, like go pretend like I need something out the kitchen or something. And like soon as before I was about to go back to her room, I was walking back towards the kitchen to pretend to get something, and I see my mom hit my stepdad with a frying pan against his head, and they're both like super intoxicated. And I screamed my sister's name so she can do something. So I didn't know what to do, so I just screamed her name, and she started screaming. She was screaming, "Mom, why would you do that?" Because she seen that she had the frying pan in her hand, and my stepdad was so like intoxicated that he just started wandering out the back door. And my sister went to go call the cops, and my mom tried to go like hide and run away from the scene. And I was just like thinking to myself that like, there's no out of this situation now. Like this is, I just thought this is going to be our life forever, and like this is going to keep happening and everything. And I remember that when the cops are coming, they found my stepdad like on the side of the road, like bleeding out. He was like passed out, and they got to him in time before he like was unalive, I can say. And they obviously found my mom upstairs hiding, trying to run away from the scene, and took her to jail. And we all went to school, and I remember like towards the end of the school, like maybe like the middle of the school day, I knew it was a CPS worker because we was dealing with one lady that I was familiar with throughout a year or two. Just because after so many times the cops been called to her house and kids been around alcohol and they knew they were drunk, we had to get CPS involved. Um, we went into a room with other CPS workers, and they was asking me like to go through my day. And I knew they wanted to ask me like what happened. So they wanted to make me feel comfortable and telling them what happened. And like I wasn't trying to hide anything. Like I told them what happened, like fair and square and everything. I put in every detail, and I thought like I didn't know we was gonna get taken away. I just thought something was gonna happen. I just didn't know what it was gonna be. And the last period, I can just remember that my phone was just ringing and ringing, and like I always have like a sense of, I can always sense when something is about to happen, either it's bad or good, or if someone is near, or like if I just have that sense of something. And I just kind of knew that I had to go check my phone to go see what was happening or like what was going on. But before I can go do that, I remember there was a assistant principal came and like asked me to, well, like pretending to say I was getting picked up by a family member, and he wanted me to go into the office. And I was like, okay. I asked if I can go use the restroom, but I really went to go check my phone. And it was my sister telling me to don't go with anyone, like the CPS is going to take y'all away, like you have to come out a different door so I can pick you up, and we're going to be safe and all that. And I was scared, so I wanted to get away from that, and I wanted to go with my sister. And I didn't make it in time, it came out to be a good reason. We walked down to the office, and I went to the office, and I remember them locking me in the room so I wouldn't go out because I feel like maybe they knew she was out there or something. And I called her and I was texting her, letting her know that I can't get out and I can't go and everything. I ended up getting in the car, and we went to go pick my siblings up, and I just knew like, because I turned around and there was like clothes in the back, and it looked like our bags and stuff. And when they got in the car, they were just like crying, and I just couldn't explain to them because I didn't know how to explain to them that like we're getting taken away from our home and stuff. Like I could felt like they didn't, they did not like being in that situation, but they're the only, my mom, my stepdad, and my older sisters were the only family that we knew and were very comfortable with, and it was their home. I feel like more so they would have more freedom. And I remember going to the foster parents' house. They were like very old, not like 70, but I know they was like late 40s, almost 50s, so they were like more old school. It wasn't no abuse or anything. It was just like stuff we weren't used to in someone else's home, and we were just visibly like clearly uncomfortable there. And just remember there was a lot of crying and stuff, and I was just like lost. Like I was just like so upset with my mom and my stepdad and putting us in a situation, and just more so like worried about my siblings and having to see them cry. Like if it was something else with them crying for, like maybe it was like them playing with each other when them got hurt. Like I would feel bad, but I wouldn't take it to heart necessarily, because I know 5 minutes later they're going to be playing with each other again, and this is going to happen continually. It was like one of them feelings like that I couldn't do anything, even though I wasn't their parents. And like I felt like I wasn't an emotional person. Like if someone was crying, like when I was younger, someone was crying or sad, I didn't know how to hug them and tell them that it was going to be okay, because my parents never showed us that. They never showed us when we were crying or when we were upset, that they didn't say like it's going to be okay, that I love y'all, and that you're gonna get through this. It was just a lot of bad mouthing to us, and I just didn't know how to comfort them. I felt like I was like failing them in that moment since I was the oldest one. But after a few days, my brother was really into sports. He still is into this day. I remember when the foster dad was taking him to some sports thing in college, and he was getting more like open up and everything. A funny moment I can say at that place was like when they was asking us what to eat, like what do we like, and like clearly we knew what we liked, but we were looking at each other like, what do we like to eat? And I think it was a reason because like we probably didn't know that what they eat is what we eat is what they have. So maybe we didn't want them to go out to go buy something or anything. But and it's also like a culture difference. Like the foster dad, he was African American, but the foster mom, she was Caucasian, and we're all my siblings and myself is African American. We just didn't know at the time, so we were a bit nervous that we found something to eat though. And after 2 weeks, like my older sister who was there was telling us that it was going to be okay, that we were going to be home soon. And after 2 weeks, we was able to go back home into my sister care, since she was older enough to get us while my stepdad was in the hospital being cared for, and my mom was in jail. Um, we weren't really able to talk to my mom because for that purpose, and like they probably thought we were gonna get out the address or something, but we ended up going home, and I just like felt like a very like, even though it was a very dark place before, it just like felt like something else was like taking over that house. Like even though the chaos was done and it was like over with, it just felt like I was feeling like something is not done. It's like someone has like put like a bad spirit on his house or something, or just like some a weird feeling, and I didn't know what it was at the time. And also I was like, when I was getting taken out, I was also scared to go back to school because some people seen that I was being taken away, and it was like cop cars around the van I was getting into. So I was just like so nervous about a lot of things and on edge about a lot of things and stuff. I can say a couple of weeks go by. My stepdad got out of the hospital, and he didn't get custody, but he was working on getting custody for us. My mom obviously had to go serve her time and still be in jail and stuff like that. And my stepdad got to come back in the house and everything. We were going to school, and my sister had custody over us. But also, since we didn't have that affection and love, my sister was a bit agitated. She was still young, taking care of 3 kids, because my stepdad had to go work full time each and every day. And she was just like taking her anger out on us. Like, I hated how she treated my siblings, and I hated how she treated me, but I was so used to being talked down on and like being yelled at for no reason. If one thing don't go someone way, like it's a big deal. And I was just like more annoyed, and I'll just never more and more come not come in my room, and she'll try to force us to bond together, which is a good thing. But it was just like, who wants to be around our stepdad, and who wants to be around her when what we know, what was just what they put us through, and just what we would expect from you too, just talking about nonsense and just yelling for no reason. I got so fed up with it, and I ended up running away with my other sister. She was in a whole different another state, like 1,000 miles plus away. And my sister was asleep at the time, and I ended up running away. My stepdad actually helped me. Because he knew how bad her stuff was and how controlling she was. So I got like on a bus and went to my sister. It was a long, long bus ride. I traveled a lot by myself at such a young age, but this is the longest ride I had by myself. It was a lot of thinking, a lot of thoughts, and just a lot of everything. My mind was like everywhere. And at the time, I didn't really think about it, but as I got older, I thought about just how I felt bad leaving my siblings there because they didn't really. They had feelings like they're kids. Everyone had feelings, but they are very more so softer with their feelings, and they would cry and stuff like that. And I would like just thought I was a bad sibling just leaving them there. But even when I was there, I didn't really stick up for them. I didn't really stick up for myself, so I didn't. I don't know why would I think that, but it was just how I was feeling and everything. On that bus right there, I did not feel like I was doing anything wrong. I would not want to change going back because I just felt like my mom would have got out and it would just been the same thing over and over. I was out there for a summer. Oh yeah, I was out there for a good summer, and my stepdad did get custody of my younger siblings. My mom was still in jail, and everything got better, and things was working out. And when my mom was in jail, she was just like still feeding us. Like even when she was out, she was feeding us lies. And she would do this, she would take us there, she would get us this. And she was doing that too, but it was just like, oh, I'll be out this day, I'll be out this month. I just have to go to court for this. And like we were expecting her to come out. And I was expecting to go back home soon to go see her and be with her. Like even though like it was such a bad experience living with her, I wanted nothing more just to be with my mom, I can say. But 3 months went by. I was still out living with my other sister in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was just the same thing. I was still chasing lust and smoking marijuana and just I started just thinking about myself, I can say. And at the time, like I didn't feel depressed, but I did feel a bit lonely. But me and my other sister was very closer than anyone in the house. I can tell her anything, but it was also a certain point that I could not tell her a lot of stuff. And I think we were more closer because we kind of lacked some personality traits and stuff. And my other older sister was always gone, and it was my second oldest sister, then it was me. So we were just bonding a little more. And I did like my first everything with her. Like I told her about my first everything, except not my older sister. And my older sister thought I would have told her everything because we had the same mom and same dad, but it just wasn't like that. After like 4 or 5 months being out there with my sister, I was still having a social work at the time, and we just decided to go out with my aunt all in Chicago, and I thought it was gonna be amazing. I thought it was gonna be good, but once I got there a few days, I felt that sense of not having a voice again, because like they were raised in a different city and I was raised in a different city, and like it did not click right away. And I was fine. Like I thought it was like everything was normal and stuff, but at the same time, my mom was also still feeding me lies, and I didn't know there was lies at the time. She was saying that she'll be out. She was keep saying she'll be out soon, and we'll be able to come back home with her, and everything's gonna be okay. And she always talked bad about my stepdad, even though he was doing so good. He was clean, and he got custody of my younger siblings, and he gave them a better life. And till this day, he's still giving them a great, great life. Which is really good. And I think just like being away from people that I'm normally around and the mom feeding me lies, I like started to shut down even more. Like I came a bit more depressed again. I didn't want to shower. I felt like I was so nervous to shower around my own in my own family house. I was nervous to eat meals and everything. Just wondering if they'll say anything or speak badly about me or something. But they just encouraged me to like their house is my house, and I was getting more comfortable, and that's what I thought. After a couple of weeks, like me and my cousins, we had the same similar things. We both liked to smoke a lot, like smoked marijuana a lot. So we always had that in common. It was still just before getting to school, or like we were getting to school, or like they were already in school. We were just working on me getting in school. So it would just be like, I'll just wait for them to come on. We'll just talk, and then we'll just smoke. It was just that we just normalized that, doing that all day, every day. I remember like a couple of months into it, I thought it was like fine. I thought it was gonna be good. No arguing, no one shouting, no one putting their hands on each other. But it was like it just started getting bad again. The same stuff with my mom and my stepdad. My aunt and her husband was fighting each other because they're intoxicated, being jealous of one another. And I was like, and I can tell that my cousins were used to the same stuff too. And like after a couple of months of like not dealing with that, or like yeah, like almost 6, 7 months of not dealing with that, I was like I thought I was safe, but then I just like was just saying like what the F to myself, like what did I get myself into? And like I cannot do this. And it was just constantly too. Like if it wasn't every other weekend, it was like every weekend, or like it was into every day and all that. And I remember like 2 months before Thanksgiving, I can say 2 or 3 months before Thanksgiving, I started a strong drug problem with my cousin. I started to get into Percocets heavy, and when I started doing Percocets, I just felt like at the time a bit more released. I felt like it was like a freedom, and it felt really good. Like I was not, and I felt like I was not in this world, and I was just like higher up somewhere, and I really loved it at the time, and it became my scapegoat. Like after school, I'll get high off of it, and people who did Percocets, or people who just know about Percocets, know like it doesn't last for a long time, so you have to consume it more. And that's the thing about that drug. Like why I get people so hooked, because it doesn't last for an hour or 30 minutes like marijuana might do. And you'll have to consume more, and you get addicted pretty easily. And I can say I was pretty addicted, not heavily at that time, but time went back past. I went to visit my siblings back in Wisconsin for Thanksgiving, and I seen how good they were living, and how wonderful and how great, and like the fantasy life I always dreamed of was seen on TV or television or TV shows, and I wanted a part of that. And I was a bit jealous, I can say. I was, because I felt like that, and like deep down, like I wasn't such a selfish person. I started becoming selfish just thinking about myself once I feel like no one else, and not even my parents, was like thinking about how I felt, or like thinking about how they're making our life like a living hell. So I feel like I came a bit jealous, and I came a bit selfish, and I was like telling myself that I deserve this, and I want this, and I like need this, and I want to get this. It was like kind of a better high than being on any other drugs, I can say. And Thanksgiving break wasn't that long. It was like a week. I talked to my stepdad about coming back out here, because I didn't think I had a chance to come out here to go to Wisconsin. I thought I had to stay there until my mom got out of jail, and I realized that she was not going to get out anytime soon. So I thought I was going to be stuck out there, and I just didn't want to. And I went back, and I was still on the Percocets, still pretty heavily, still going back to, but I just put on pause for a week. And I remember this one time, it was my cousin's birthday. Our birthday is around the same time, like a week later after my birthday. we were arguing about something like super stupid, and we had a miscommunication, and he just said some words like he told me that I didn't, like he was upset for something so dumb. He got mad and he was like, you need to go back home, like you don't have a place here. And that I was like kind of just looking for an excuse to bring up to my aunt that I don't want to come, I don't want to be here, and tell my social workers that I want to go back to live with my stepdad because how good they were living. It was like no argument, and he got into a new relationship, and it was a very healthy relationship. And I was just like, once he left out the room and my other cousin was there, I was just like crying, just like, oh, like I don't care. This is just an excuse for me to go back. But I actually did care. And I let my social worker know, and that's when the next day my aunt was like, did you let her know that y'all got into a petty argument and stuff like that? And she was just like laughing it off because like they just normalize people yelling at each other, people saying nasty things to each other, and they just got back to normal. And I was like telling myself like I don't have to deal with this stuff anymore. I can make a change. I can voice my opinion now. And she just like laughed about it, and I was serious. I was like, yeah, I want to go. I want to leave. Like I'm not staying here. And eventually I did leave and went back to Wisconsin with my stepdad and the kids. And I can say like I didn't have access to Percocets, but I did still have access to marijuana. And I still had that like addiction to marijuana, and I brought it into his house, not with him not knowing. He knew, but I also let him know like I'm not gonna do it at his house. Or I didn't even probably let him know. I just probably went to because my sister was back in Wisconsin at the time, the one who was in Ohio, and I just go hang out with her and smoke and stuff. And it just started consuming my life. Like marijuana, it just started consuming my brain. It made me more foggy, made me more addicted to stuff. And I became more and more selfish to myself and just thinking about myself, and didn't care what anyone else was saying to me or like what anyone else thought of me. And we ended up moving from the one house that I came back to with my stepdad because we needed a bigger house because I was now living with them and they didn't have room for that house. So we ended up moving, and it just came worse. It just came worse. I started developing a drinking problem. You know, I was telling myself I would never drink, I would never be like my mom, but it just flipped a switch. And I started cutting off communication with my mom because I, again, became more selfish to myself. I didn't have an obligation to talk to her, and I felt like she already let me down. I felt like I was like drowning at a certain point, that like only thing that can lift me back up was like marijuana. And then when I started drinking, like before when I started drinking, I felt like excitement, but I was very also like a lightweight, and it just very tuned out from reality. And I loved that feeling at the time. And I would just start drinking a lot and just making it like an everyday thing or like an every other week thing for me. Then so we end up moving, and I was like, after like a month or two, I was like never at the house. It seemed like I never lived there. Like it looked like no one never lived there. Just a room full of clothes and a bed and a TV, and it was just a guest room with clothes in there. Because I was always out partying like it was right before I became a freshman, so very young, out going to parties every weekend and or every day and just drinking, smoking. And I met another friend who was addicted to Percocets too, and we only clicked because we had that drug problem. So I had access to that drug problem again. I can say because I started my Percocets addiction in 8th grade, and it lasted to 10th grade. And yeah, we just had that connection, and it was just like bad. And like after like school started and the second week of my freshman year, I got into a fight because I was skipping. I wanted to go smoke and not be there. And I was like taking up the restroom, and someone was irritated about that, and I took it the wrong way, and I just got into a fight. Then I got sent to juvenile detention and suspended for school for like for the first semester. And since it was my first time getting in legal trouble, I can say I got out the next day and I had to get on house arrest. And I was like so used to being outside. Like the first week of me being out, I was obviously setting a bad example and still for my siblings and going through the same stuff I was kind of going through, what they was going through at the other house. And my stepdad was not about to allow that happen and let me traumatize them again. And at the time, I thought he was selfish and everything, but I understood like after a couple of months why he didn't allow that. And I'm so grateful that he took the procedures that he did take. But the week of me being out on the like tracking monitor, I was not listening. Like I was going out to stores, I was hanging out with people, I was just inviting people to the house unannounced and everything. And he couldn't do it, so he was going to send me back to my dad. And I was like so annoyed because I haven't talked to my dad in forever. And I was just thinking like, because my dad was on board with it, my biological dad was on board with it, and he was like saying things and stuff like that. And I was just like, I didn't say anything. I was like, okay. And next night, I just packed what I could. Probably, I don't think I packed much or nothing. I don't think so. And that's when I had some friends that was driving at the time, and I snuck out and got into the car and just ditched the ankle monitor and just let it go. And I just started drinking more and more and more. And I remember my mom got out around this time and she just started back drinking too. She wasn't focusing on getting her kids back. So I thought what I was doing was fine. Like she's doing it, I'm doing it, like why not? And she eventually went on the run for a very, very long time, like almost 2 years. So I didn't see very much of her at all after that. And she was just being with different people, still like the same stuff with different men and getting drunk and putting their hands on each other. I seen it for a little bit, but when it started happening, I didn't see it. I just heard about it, seeing about it and everything. But while I was doing what I was doing, I started drinking more heavily, blacking out and not remembering what I was doing and what I said that day and just losing complete control. And I remember turning myself back in after, like, because it happened in September. Then I turned myself in right before my birthday. So it was in January. So like couple of months, I turned myself back in, and I went to a different foster care. And I was like, I felt very disconnected from the world again. I feel like maybe I was going through withdrawals from like alcohol or and marijuana and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it another chance. So I asked my stepdad if I can come back and stay with him, and he said, okay. And things were different, and I just didn't adapt to it, and I started doing the same stuff again. Eventually, he kicked me out, and I started staying with my sister, and it just got worse. I got into a really bad relationship with a older guy, and he was always around, and all he wanted to do was drink and party and stuff like that. And I felt that attachment because I felt like it was love because I didn't have a proper way of having love with a healthy love situation for my biological dad, for my mom, or for my stepdad or nothing like that. So I felt whatever he said to me was like just good and like just it was good, but it wasn't. I was like just my eye was turned a different way. I felt like he was just lying and just cheating, and I stayed because I that's what I seen. And like it was a long, like maybe 6 months. It was very miserable, and I just gave up at that point. Like we stopped talking, but it'll be things that'll be like going back and stuff. I felt like I was stuck. I felt like I was lost. I felt like I didn't have any purpose in life anymore. I felt like I was just using myself for the world and just giving myself to a world that didn't deserve me, but I didn't know anything else, and I just continued to let it happen. And eventually, my sister got fed up with the stuff, with my drinking and all that stuff, and couldn't deal. So I was just going back and forth to state. And eventually, I ended up back at her house, and we, I can say I came to like I settled down more, and I like was done with my drug addiction with Percocets, while I was still heavily on marijuana and stuff. And at this point, I didn't know why I was living. I didn't know who I was living for. I didn't know if I really had a purpose. And I was just, every time I like not pass something or like fell at something, I would just say like, oh, I'm never going to be this in life. I'm never going to be good in life. Because I had big dreams for different things. Like at one point, I wanted to be a lawyer. Then at one point, I wanted to go to school for cosmetologist. And I just like gave up on that and just felt like I wasn't very good enough or very smart enough, and like my past defined me because of that, those things, and that I couldn't do that. But after a while, I kind of started getting things together. I was always working throughout the time, but I was also always losing a job too because of moving and because of just the addictions that I had. And it was some times that some time passed and I'm still living with my sister. And I was working at this one job and getting things together and all that. But I also got into a really another bad relationship with the guy. At first, it wasn't as bad. Well, I can say it was bad. It was built on lies, I can say. And it wasn't, and I was okay with that because I'm used to being lied to. I'm used to living on lies and all that stuff, saying I'm okay when I'm not. So I was fine with that. But after like a few months, he ended the relationship, and I felt like something just like broke. And I don't necessarily think it was because of the relationship. I just feel like it was just because of once I'm at a place or like once I'm hanging out with someone, unless I meet like a friendship or just a bond with someone, like it doesn't last long, or like I just knew everything or nothing was going to be permanent. I felt like nothing was going to be permanent in my life, and everything just been taken away, whether it was a job, whether it was a place I was staying at, whether it was just something I had of my own. I just felt like nothing was going to be permanent, and I became more depressed. I started drinking again, but it wasn't just a night drink. I started drinking from early morning to night and everything. I stopped going to school in the morning, and it just like I just came like lost. I felt like I was in like a middle of the ocean, just drowning myself in sorrow. And it was comfortable for me because I didn't have to do much. I was like crying myself to sleep every night. I was just getting as high as I can get off marijuana. And I felt like I was so over it, and I became suicidal towards myself and just not wanting to live anymore. And I was like, this is going to be my last day. Like, there's no purpose for me to live. And I was just so over it. Then one night it was like a couple days in a row, I was not sleeping at all. Like, I would be up to like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would go to sleep, wake up 3 hours later, and start the day. And it was like a cycle. And one night I was like, okay, I was telling myself, I have to go back to school. I have to get back in the routine of going to school. And I got so high that night. It was like probably 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was getting high like for hours straight and off of marijuana. And I was like literally so high, and usually I'll sleep with the TV or the light on, but something was just telling me to turn it off. And it was just pitch black, and I was laying down, and I was just torturing myself in my head, saying that like if I don't stay up, that I'm not gonna wake up in the morning to go to school. And I was just like repeating that in my head over and over, and it just felt like something like took over my body, that I couldn't like control my body, and that I wanted to get up, but like I just really could not get up at all. And a minute or two passed and this was happening, and I was like so scared, the scariest I've been in my entire life. And something was telling me at the time, I didn't know what it was. Now today I know it was the demon that it was telling me not to open my eyes at all. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna open my eyes. And I just also knew that it was also a voice at the back of my head telling me to open my eyes, and I didn't know what to do. And I just opened my eyes, and before I closed my eyes, before I laid down, it was pitch black. But when I opened my eyes, it was like one wall was like full of lightness. The light was so bright. It felt like my soul was leaving my body. It felt like if I didn't get up, that I wouldn't wake up the next day. That's what I felt like. And I was telling myself that I need to go ask for help, that I need to tell someone that I'm like not okay. So I started screaming, and I ran into my sister's room, and I just hugged them, and I was like so afraid or so surprised. I was telling them that I knew he was real, and I kept saying it, and they was saying who is real, and I was like, I knew it was God, I knew he was real. And I was like so shaken at that point, like I didn't know what to do. So I ended up going to sleep like 30 minutes later because I cried myself to sleep the next day. Then I woke up and I did not want to go in that room, but it was also a part of me like feel like I needed to have that alone time with myself. And I went back in there, and I was like so stuck on like what happened. And not what happened. I was like so stuck on what what I just witnessed. And I didn't know what to say, or I didn't feel like I wanted to tell my sister and them what happened because I didn't want to feel crazy, but I ended up telling them in the least crazy way I can sound like. And after a couple of days, I just like things start to come clear to me. I end up getting a new job. I I stopped drinking less than ever. I stopped the drinking. I wanted to stop smoking right away, but it was just still a part of me to just smoke. And after like a couple of months, 2, 3 months, I had a new job. I stopped smoking less. I stopped going out. I stopped hanging out with certain people. Like I started hanging out with everyone, I feel like, and I started spending more time outdoors, outside my bedroom doors. I can say like I became more happier because I'm like a very with my family, with my sister, I can be very like goofy and silly. I became like more of that person. I showed more of that side, like a softer side, and not so like not spoken or like had like a harder heart. Like my heart became more softer towards them and towards myself. I started telling myself that I'm worth it and that like I deserve something. I just didn't know what it was gonna be. And I knew throughout my life, I was always like when I was going through hard things, I was always telling myself that I did not belong in this world. And it wasn't necessary that I wanted to like unalive myself at that point. It was just I just felt like there was something else out there for me than the drinking, than the smoking, and being around a lot of negative energy. And I was planning this trip to go out of town for like spring break. Also, I started going back to school and everything, but I started planning this trip to out of town to go to spring break. And I was at work one day and I got a ride from this guy. And I was like, one thing that caught my eye was like his name is the same name as my brother's name was Joshua. And I was like, as a joke, I was like, is this Joshua driving? But it was just a joke. And that's when I clicked his profile picture. And I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. But I didn't really think of it of like as a big deal. I just like, oh, like, let's go home. Let's get in this ride. Let's go home. Another day of working. Let's just get it over with. And I was like tired. So I really did not want to talk to anyone else since I was like talking all day that day. But I got into a ride And it was just, first it was just normal how people, like when you bump into someone, someone say, hey, how you doing? And stuff like that. It was just like that. Then I got on my phone. I thought it was just going to be like that because I just, all my rides with Uber drivers or like Lyft drivers at the time. And it's just a quiet night. But he started a conversation with me where we start talking about, I'm pretty sure it was work first, then it led into like he was talking to me about God. And I noticed that he had a cross on his like around his, what is it called? Like his, not dashboard,
Rear view mirror.
yeah, the rear view mirror. And I was like, oh, I was thinking to myself, like, maybe I should pay attention more to this conversation because I remember I still had my phone in my hand and I wasn't 100% interested, but he asked me a question that gravitated my attention to it, and he asked me if I was to die today, where do I think I would go? And I was stuck to that question. Like I knew I was 100% sure I was not gonna go to heaven, but I also did not feel like I was gonna go to hell, you know. And I don't think I believed at that time that hell was really a real place because all the different things you might see on television or other people tell you or stuff like that. And I was saying like maybe if I didn't do this and I didn't do that, I would go to heaven. And he was explaining to me what that really meant. And I was interested and I was like down for the conversation and we arrived to my house and the drive is like wasn't that long, but it felt way shorter. Like it felt like 2 minutes had went past because of how great the conversation was. And I was just like excited that I had someone to talk to and that someone was like listening to me because we both shared our experience about having that demon take over our body at that moment. And I felt like I wasn't crazy at that moment. And I felt very seen. I felt very happy. And he asked to go to to a coffee shop the next day. And I was like, okay. And I thought it was just friendly. But I went into my house and I went into my room and like I was so ecstatic, not for like just the coffee part or like hanging out the next day. It was just I was so happy that I couldn't stop smiling because I felt like something was about to enter my life, or like someone was about to enter my life. I just didn't know what it was going to be, and I didn't think it was going to be him at the time. And I was just like, I didn't have words to explain a feeling that I never felt before in my life. And the next day we went out, but I was also like, I don't know if I should go out because I didn't know if it was a date or if it was just a random hangout. But I was like telling myself, like, this is a date. I was like, but wait, what if this is not a date? I'm just overthinking it. And I was like, this is definitely a date. And it was a date. And ever since that day, we just started hanging out and talking. And there was a point that we stopped talking for a little bit because of actions on my end. But I explained to him like that I never felt this way before in like such a little amount of time. And there's always something I have to give or I have to say, or maybe I have to approach a person to create a friendship or just a relationship. And I felt like something was coming towards me that I really deserved. And I knew that I can be for someone amazing. And we started back talking and we were hanging out every single day. And he expressed his feelings to me that he is looking for a marriage out of a relationship. And even more, I just felt like a person was looking at me just for more than like appearances or like just getting something simple out of me, I can say. And I was like, I didn't tell him this right away, but I was thinking like, oh, like I want to marry this guy too. And he introduced me to the Lord and showed me the correct way of walking into life. And it wasn't the worldly view that a lot of people walk in and a lot of people show you on different social media, maybe just in person. And that the world was actually created by God and there's a way to walk in life and there's a right way to do things and there's things not to do, but it wouldn't be forceful. And I was like, this isn't forceful at all. It was like so, it was like felt like more so normal to me already. It was like something I was missing that I did not know I was missing at the time. And I was like so happy and I was more full of light. I was letting the darkness get away from me and I was letting all lightness come to me. And I gave my life to the Lord and I let the worldly things go. I let a lot of things go. Wanted to stop dressing a certain way. I wanted to stop smoking. I wanted to stop vaping. I wanted to stop swearing. I just wanted to be a genuine person that can serve not just myself for this world because I felt like that I didn't have a purpose, but the Lord showed me that I had a purpose and that I am more than what the world creates you to be, and that I was living for someone else too. And just, I was so ecstatic that I didn't take my life and that I gave my life to a God that truly loved and cared for me and wanted me to be happy with myself and happy with what things I do and not second guessing things. And we got married. And it was one of the best decisions that I ever made and very confident in my life. And I was just, sometimes I feel like that I got more than I asked for and more than I deserve. And also, on the other hand, I feel like I worked so hard for something that I didn't know that I worked so hard for it. And only thing I had to do was accept the Lord and Savior and that He is real and that He died for my sins and that He loved us and that He loved me and that I can have a second chance no matter what I done, did, or said to people or to myself. And that's how I gave my life to the Lord.
Yeah. And then we moved to Florida after we got married too, and that's where we're at right now. We're filming this in Florida. If there would be one thing that you would say to like maybe somebody watching this that was in the position you were, then what would you tell them?
That you don't have to be scared, because I know I was scared most of my life, and that letting go is more easier than a lot of people make it seem like, and that this life isn't going to be easy and it might be a long journey, but it was very worth it, and that the Lord is amazing and that the Lord is going to be there for you no matter times that you messed up or you feel like that you're not worth it. You're always worth it 100%, I can say. And there is always someone out there for you.
Praise God.
Praise the Lord.